The Christmas Toast That Was Meant to Be Lethal. Chapter 1. The Gathering Storm. It was Christmas Eve in the old Victorian house on Elm Street, the kind of place that had stood for over a century, its creaky wooden floors and high ceilings echoing with the ghosts of holidays past. Snow fell gently outside the bay windows, blanketing the world in a serene white hush that belied the tension simmering within. The fireplace in the living room crackled merrily, casting flickering orange glows across the faces of my family, gathered around the long oak dining table, laden with roasted turkey, cranberry sauce, mashed potatoes, and all the trimmings of a traditional feast. I, Harold Whitaker, at 72 years old, sat at the head of the table, my arthritic hands wrapped around a mug of mulled wine. My life had been one of quiet routine, widowed for 15 years, retired from teaching history at the local high school, and now content to watch my family grow. There was my son, Thomas, 45, a successful architect with a kind heart, but a tendency to rush into things. Beside him sat his new wife, Elena, a striking woman in her late 30s with raven black hair cascading in waves and lips painted a vivid crimson red. They'd married just 6 months ago after a whirlwind romance that began at a conference in Paris. Elena was all smiles tonight, her emerald green dress hugging her figure as she moved gracefully around the room, helpfully refilling glasses and plates. Then there was my daughter Sarah, 38, a nurse with a no-nonsense attitude, her husband Mark, an accountant who always seemed buried in his phone, and their 2 teenage daughters, Lily and Rose, giggling over some TikTok video, and of course little Tommy, my 9-year-old grandson from Thomas's first marriage. Tommy was a quiet boy, with wide blue eyes and a mop of curly brown hair, always clutching his favorite stuffed bear. He had health issues, you see, a rare condition that required him to take special pills every day to regulate his heart. We'd all grown used to the routine, crushed the pills into powder, and mixed them into his applesauce or yogurt to make it easier for him to swallow. The air was thick with the scent of pine from the towering Christmas tree in the corner, adorned with twinkling lights and ornaments collected over decades. Carols played softly from the old record player, Bing Crosby crooning about a white Christmas. But beneath the festive veneer, something felt off. Elena had been overly attentive to Thomas all evening, her hand lingering on his shoulder a bit too long, her laughter a touch too forced. I'd caught her glancing at me oddly a few times, as if sizing me up. Thomas's first wife, Maria, had passed away 5 years ago in a tragic car accident, and while I was happy he'd found love again, Elena's background was a mystery. She claimed to be from a small town in Eastern Europe, but her stories shifted like sand. As the evening wore on, we shared stories from Christmases past. Sarah reminisced about the time we'd all gone sledding and ended up in a snowbank. Mark cracked jokes about his failed attempts at baking cookies. The girls begged for more eggnog. Tommy sat quietly beside me, picking at his food, his small hand occasionally reaching for mine under the table. Elena, ever the perfect hostess, circled the table with a bottle of red wine. "Darling, let me top you off," she purred to Thomas, her voice like silk as she poured generously into his glass. He smiled up at her, oblivious, his cheeks already flush from the alcohol. I watched her closely. That lipstick, such a bold shade, like fresh blood on snow. It matched the tube I'd seen her apply earlier in the powder room when I'd passed by. Why did it unsettle me? Perhaps it was the way she hovered, or the faint, almost imperceptible smirk that played on her lips when no one was looking. Chapter 2. Whispers in the Shadows. Dinner wound down, and we moved to dessert, pecan pie and gingerbread cookies shaped like reindeer. The conversation turned lighter, with plans for opening presents at midnight. Tommy excused himself briefly to use the bathroom, returning with a slight limp, his face paler than usual. "You okay, buddy?" I whispered, ruffling his hair. He nodded,
but his eyes darted towards Elena, who was now clearing plates with exaggerated efficiency. As the clock ticked towards 10 p.m., Thomas suggested a family toast. "To new beginnings," he said, raising his glass with a grin. Elena beamed, her eyes sparkling under the chandelier lights. "Yes, to family," she echoed, her accent lilting softly. Everyone reached for their glasses, wine for the adults, sparkling cider for the kids. The fire popped, sending embers dancing upward. That's when it happened. As we all lifted our glasses, Tommy tugged at my sleeve under the table, his small fingers insistent. I glanced down, puzzled, and felt him press something in my palm, a crumpled napkin, damp from his sweaty hand. I unfolded it discreetly, my heart skipping a beat, as I read the scrawled message in smudged red lipstick. "His glass gets the crushed pills. He'll just fall asleep forever." The words hit me like a freight train. Crushed pills. Tommy's medicine. Those tiny white tablets he took every day. I knew from the doctors that an overdose, especially mixed with alcohol, could cause respiratory failure, making it look like he simply dozed off after too much holiday cheer. No one would question it. Thomas had a history of heart issues in the family. But who had written this? The lipstick. It was that exact crimson shade, the one Elena wore. I stole a glance at her. She was still smiling, but now it seemed predatory, her eyes fixed on Thomas's glass. My mind raced. How could Tommy have gotten this? He must have overheard or found it somehow. The boy was perceptive, often wandering the house unnoticed. Perhaps Elena had jotted it down as a reminder to herself, careless in her plotting. And she'd been refilling Thomas's glass all night, plenty of opportunities to slip in the powder. The room seemed to close in. Sarah was chatting animately with Mark, the girls snapping selfies by the tree. Thomas clinked his glass against Elena's, laughing at some private joke. But I saw it now, the subtle way she urged him to drink more, her hand guiding his elbow. Chapter 3. The Unraveling Thread. I couldn't let this slide. My hand trembled as I clutched the napkin, the red letters burning into my memory. The toast was moments away, everyone poised, glasses raised high. "Wait," I said, my voice cutting through the merriment like a knife. The room fell silent, all eyes on me. I stood slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. "Before we toast," I continued, holding up the napkin like a flag of accusation, "I think we need to address this." I read the words aloud, my tone steady despite the rage boiling inside. "His glass gets the crushed pills. He'll just fall asleep forever." Gasps rippled around the table. Thomas's face drained of color. "Dad, what is this? Where did you get that?" "From Tommy," I replied, placing a protective hand on the boy's shoulder. He shrank back, tears welling in his eyes. "He handed it to me just now, and look at the writing, red lipstick, the same shade Elena's wearing." Elena's composure cracked for the first time. Her smile faltered, eyes widening in feigned shock. "What? That's absurd. Harold, you must be mistaken. Maybe it's a prank." "A prank?" I scoffed, crumpling the napkin but keeping it visible. "Tommy's pills are in the kitchen cabinet. Let's check if any are missing." Sarah jumped up, her nurse instincts kicking in, and dashed to the kitchen. She returned moments later holding the bottle. "It's half empty," she said, grimly. "And there's powder residue on the counter, like someone crushed them recently." Mark pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the police." Elena bolted upright, her chair toppling backwards. "This is ridiculous. Thomas, tell them, I love you. Why would I do this?" But Thomas stared at her, betrayal etching deep lines on his face. "Elena, the insurance policy. You insisted I updated last month, making you the beneficiary." The pieces fell into place. Elena's mysterious past, rumors of a previous marriage ending in accidental death, whispers I dismissed as paranoia, her egginess to integrate into the family, always so helpful. And now this napkin, a death warrant in crimson. Tommy finally spoke, his voice a whisper. "I found it in the trash in the bathroom. Aunt Elena was in there earlier. I saw her writing something." Elena's effect shattered. She lunged for the door, but Mark blocked her path. "Not so fast." Sirens wailed in the distance. Sarah had already dialed 911 from the kitchen. Chapter 4. The Aftermath and Revelations. The police arrived within minutes, blue lights flashing against the snow-covered lawn. Elena was handcuffed and led away, protesting her innocence all the while, but the evidence mounted quickly. The napkin tested positive for her lipstick residue, fingerprints on the pill bottle, and a quick search of her purse revealed a vial of crushed powder. Thomas was shock-shelled, collapsing into a chair as the officers questioned us. In the days that followed, the full story emerged. Elena, real name Irina Sokolova, had a history of marrying wealthy men and orchestrating their accident